I work as a sleep scientist. After my last discovery, I've refused to sleep for 3 weeks straight. I usually enjoy working in the sleep lab, but after what I discovered last night, I don't think I'll ever be able to sleep properly again. Since working as a sleep scientist, I've seen my fair share of terrifying and panic-inducing cases. I've had to hear the blood-curdling screams of kids with sleep paralysis claiming to see demons. I've had people attack me in their sleep. I've seen just about every type of terrifying sleep-related issue, but nothing could have prepared me for my last patient. He was a man in his mid-20s who had lapsed into a coma a few days before he was transferred to our facility. He was sent here so we could monitor him, since a coma is very similar to deep sleep, so it's great for sleep research. I was originally hesitant to take on this patient for observation. The reason is, this patient presents with a whole list of strange and unusual symptoms, yet we have no idea what could have caused it. The patient's brother reports that the patient had randomly begun suffering from extreme hallucinations and headaches, so decided to go to sleep early. A whole week goes by, and he never wakes up, despite having no visible health issues. His brother had just assumed he went to sleep for the night, not knowing it would be his last sleep. I knew it was going to be a challenge finding out what caused this, so I hooked him up to our monitoring machines and began with our usual process. But I never could have guessed the horrifying discoveries I would soon make. When I began monitoring the patient, I noticed something extremely strange. His brainwaves weren't typical of a normal coma patient, but all his other physical attributes are. His pupils are unresponsive to light, and he is unresponsive to all stimuli applied, including painful stimuli, except for reflex responses. But his brain waves seemed like he was still awake, still fully capable and conscious. The professor in charge of our lab had a theory that the patient may have been exposed to some airborne pathogen that infected his brain, which may explain the unusual brain activity. But something was telling me it was something a lot worse than that. Whatever the diagnosis, he was a medical mystery and could have held the key to some obscure disease, and by extension, a new discovery. We were looking at uncharted and undiscovered scientific territory here. So, this afternoon, one by one, my colleagues at the lab checked out for home. Soon there was just me left, staying overnight alone to monitor the patient. I have done this, as I say, many times before. It's the usual routine. I turned on my personal laptop and checked emails and so on. Can't use speakers or headphones on the chance that patients call out or make a noise during the night. Can't risk missing something like that. I was reading something online when I first heard footsteps coming from the corridor. I didn't think anything of it. Probably one of the patients had woken up and had to use the restroom or something. I was immersed in the article I was reading, when suddenly everything seemed to stand still as the realization hit me. There were no other patients in the sleep lab tonight. Just me and Coma Guy. My head turned to the monitor instantly, in the dubious hope that maybe the patient had woken up. Nope, still on the bed, unresponsive, like a log. The footsteps were in the corridor, and they seemed to be going towards the sleep room. I swiveled in my chair and scrambled to the door, in long, hurried steps, almost leaping to it. I opened it and peered out. There was no one in the corridor. Just to be safe, I checked the nearby rooms, including the vacant sleep rooms. All the doors leading to the sleep lab were locked. Only my staff security swipe card can open those. I was safe and sealed in. It had been my imagination. Sighing and assuming it was probably nothing, I returned to the monitoring room. Another quick check that the recordings were in order, and I settled into my laptop routine again. With the computer fans humming away, the steady beep of the patient's heart rate, and nothing interesting online, I was on the verge of sleep. Thank God I never fell asleep then. Otherwise, that could have been my last ever nap. The steady sound of the patient's heart rate is what had almost lulled me into a trance, and it's the heart rate that woke me up again, with start. The patient's heart rate had spontaneously increased, very fast. I looked up eagerly at the EEG signal. It had changed, gotten quicker, responsive to something. Was the patient waking up? I stared at the infrared camera image, which was blurry, so I got up and went to look in through the window. Nothing. There was no movement, no change in the patient's consciousness, but his breathing and heart rate had increased. His brain activity had changed within the coma. Was he experiencing hallucinations? I stared at the stationary figure on the bed for some time in the darkness. And then, something within the room moved. At first, I thought it was the shadow of the cabinet on the other side of the room, but the shadow was moving, creeping. A black mass, creeping slowly towards the bed. I blinked, trying to be sure of myself. It was so dark that sometimes the mind creates shapes of darkness and shadows, illusions. No, it did seem to really be there. It was elongating now, as though something, this black thing, had been on all fours and was now standing up, to stand over the patient in his bed. An intruder. Someone here to attack the patient, or just someone mentally unstable who had somehow found a way in. Perhaps they had tailgated and slipped in behind a member of staff as they had entered through the security-protected doors. "Hey!" I shouted, banging on the window. "Hey, who's there? You're not supposed to be in there." The figure stood, unmoved. I went back to the door, through the corridor, and into the sleep room. I turned on the light. No one was there. There couldn't have been time to escape. If they'd exited the sleep room, they would have run into me in the corridor. How odd. Most likely a trick of the darkness. Just to be certain, though, I checked underneath the bed, and in the ensuite bathroom, and in the cabinet for good measure. Everything was in order. I looked at the patient in bed. I was now standing over the bed in the same way I'd imagined the shadow had done. The patient's breathing had returned to his normal pace. I went back to the monitoring room, and I looked at the screen displaying the camera view. I rewound the recording back a few minutes. There was nothing on there. No shadow. Everything was just like usual. Empty room, with the patient in the bed with nothing moving. Either my imagination was just playing with me, or I was experiencing some extreme hallucinations. In the back of my mind, I started panicking, but tried not to think about it, putting it down to just the darkness playing tricks on me. At this point, I could have never known how much worse things were about to get. I sat down at my laptop again, not really able to concentrate anymore on the article I had been reading. I decided I needed some light relief. I went to YouTube and started watching some videos with the speakers turned off, and I was finally able to relax and was engrossed. I don't know how long passed in this way, an hour or so, I think. My eyes went back to the recording screen to make sure all was well. There was no EEG signal. It was flatlining, no heart signal, no breathing signal. My heart jumped into my throat. The patient was dead, and I'd missed it. I should have done something. What had happened? Oh God, what a fool I was, getting wrapped up in videos. I looked at the camera feed and the patient was gone. The bed was empty. In the midst of the rush of adrenaline and fear, I ran into the sleep room and turned on the light. The bed was tousled, as though the participant had just walked off. But that was impossible. The door had been closed, and the outer door had a security lock. Only those with a swipe card could get out. I looked in the adjoining restroom. Nothing. Feeling stupid, I looked in the clothes cabinet. Nothing. I got on hands and knees, the carpet feeling rough under my palms, and looked under the bed. The patient was lying under the bed. "Hello?" I said. No response. His eyes were closed. How could he have possibly ended up moving? Without thinking about it, I shuffled sideways, halfway under the bed, and used one hand to slowly drag the man out. He was still unconscious. The wires were still attached to his head, but had been unplugged at the other end, from the recording machine, so they trailed, long, unattached wires like dreadlocks from his head. Heaving and panting, I somehow managed to get his dead weight back into bed. I then set about plugging everything back into where it should be, and then covered him with the blanket again. I went back into the monitoring room. The signal was back and recording. The signal indicated that he was indeed still comatose. How had he managed to get out of bed? Only one way to find out. The video. Visual evidence. With that, we'd know exactly what happened. So I clicked rewind on the video feed. The past hour was just a blank, dead screen. I felt winded. I sat down on my chair heavily. There must be some rational explanation for this. I went to the door that opened into the corridor, and I closed it. It locks automatically, so only I can open it to get out with my card, just to be safe. I also thought it might be a good idea to check in with security services to help just so there's someone else around. I picked up the office phone, and there was no dial tone. Never mind. I took my mobile from my pocket. No signal. Odd. I tried changing position, etc., but it was no use. I went on to my email to message a colleague to see if I could ask them to ring security for me. This email could not be sent. Please check your connection and try again. The internet connection was definitely still there. I loaded a YouTube video. It was playing fine. I got to my feet to check the EEG screen again. Brainwave activity was as before, comatose, but his chin muscle signal was active. It meant that his mouth was moving. The infrared camera image was too grainy to tell, so I glanced at the window into his room. Indeed, his mouth was wide open, his chest muscles straining. He was screaming, unrelentingly, but his brain signals, he was still in a coma. Before I could mentally process this, the patient sat upright in bed. Here's the thing. There was no activity in his brain areas that should control his movement or muscles to move. These regions of the brain were inactive. By the look of the signal, his brain wasn't actually controlling his movements. So what the hell was controlling them? Maybe there was something wrong with the signal. Maybe there was an error with the recording equipment. I ran into the door which I'd closed just a few minutes ago. It wouldn't open. I tried swiping my card. It wouldn't open. No beep. Nothing. Neither was I able to turn on the light. Somehow nothing was working. There was a pane of frosted glass at the side of the door. I knew I had to get in there to the patient, so I planned to smash it and squeeze through. I lifted the chair above my head and steadied myself, planting my feet firmly, and got ready to swing. That was until someone pushed me. Someone shoved me, forcefully, away from the door. I toppled over, the chair falling from my grip, onto me in a confused, tumultuous movement where I couldn't tell where my head was in relation to my feet and the floor. I managed to untangle myself, pushing the chair off me, not thinking about the malicious force that had thrown me onto the floor. The recording computer monitors went dark. The EEG signals and the camera feed screens, both, just pop, and they were gone. I was plunged into greater darkness. I ran to the window to look in at the patient. He was sitting upright in bed, still screaming. He had been screaming relentlessly throughout all this. I stared at him and banged on the window, trying to get him to wake up. This wasn't a normal coma. Perhaps I could wake him up if I tried. I don't know what the hell this was. I was willing to throw all protocol out of the window now, and then someone closed the blind from the other room. I just stood there staring at it. I didn't see a hand pull the blind down, but just the jerking movement of the dark blind being pulled to the bottom of the window pane. Someone else might have shouted out, asked who was there. I don't know why, but I just didn't. Maybe because I knew it would be no use. I never thought I would type this, but I knew then that this wasn't a human I was dealing with. I just felt suddenly drained. I thought back to when his brother said he was hallucinating before he fell asleep and never woke up.